There's many a slip twixt cup and lip. The words themselves can be misinterpreted, they can be misunderstood, but the message about the Great Awakening is fixed and it will never change. This is where we are, and it's only going to get bigger and better. Hello, you gorgeous non-MPC and non-MPCettes. How are you doing today? Today I'm talking about the quality of the messages that I receive from the emissaries. Are the emissaries real? Am I making this up? Am I just inventing it in some strange corner of my mind? Or what? I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So I just had this series, I was out running and I'd had two of these beautiful messages from the emissaries, and I was going up my hill, the steep hill that I go up at the end, and just as I started to go up the hill, I said to them, is this real? Am I just making this up? Is this a load of rubbish? Or are you real? And they came back to me, they were talking to me, obviously I'm saying, is this real? And then they're talking to me. But am I making this up? Am I schizophrenic? Do I have another voice inside of my head, or various? And they said, if it wasn't real, Gordon, would it matter? And that left me a bit perplexed. I had to have a think about that. And I said, probably not. Because what I believe is that the messages that the emissaries give, whether they are real or not, help. They're helping us all just to get through this, to think that there might be something else to this than just what we see, more to it than meets the eye. And so in the scheme of things, it wouldn't matter if they were true or not, as long as they're helping. I believe, that I came here to help. And so being able to give their messages is helping. And even if it just helps us to get through this period that's very difficult, fantastic. So no, it doesn't matter. But then they added, I said that, and then they said, that's very true, but it is real. And they said to me, does it feel real to you? And what they did was then they took me back to the very beginning, to when the emissaries first came to me. You see, the thing is now, I have assimilated so much the messages and the way that they talk to me and everything, that it just seems completely normal. I've normalized it. But at the beginning, it bloody wasn't normal. At the beginning, when they came through, they would do really weird things to me. Weird things were happening to me. Apart from the physical movements that they would make, at the beginning, what they said was this: for us to be able to communicate with you well, we need to raise your vibration. Obviously, I was a bit low in my vibration. And they said, we need to raise your vibration. So we are going to give you some downloads. That's exactly what they said. And what they would do is this: when I would commune with them, they would get my head and they would throw it back like that. So far back, and it wasn't me doing it, my neck was thrown back like this, that it would hurt my neck. And I asked them, please, would you not do that so strongly because it's hurting? And they said, it's just that position allows us to download to you in the best way. I suppose it's, I'm here in 3D. I think the communication is very, very like a fiber optic. And so they have to do everything they possibly can to make it happen. But I was off my rocker for a number of weeks. I would get a download. I would be dizzy. I would feel out of body. I would feel weird, and I would literally be physically dizzy. I would feel that. I remember working once in the garden, and I was working on something, and I felt like I was in a dream. I didn't know what was real, and I was saying, "Is this what you do?" And they said, "Yes, we need to download. We're downloading all of the time." And then that stopped because they said, "Okay, now we're happy with where we've got you." Okay, whatever it was that they were doing. Now we can communicate better with you. And it was at that point that they stopped doing the physical movements. They stopped this. I didn't need to do it anymore. And then they just started to talk to me. And I'd kind of forgotten about all of that. And, I'm just thinking, well, I'm just hearing a voice in my head. I could be making it up. But there were a lot of steps on the way that made me know that this wasn't me. It certainly wasn't me, my physical body or my mind or whatever. I was being moved. I was being manipulated. And that's what they made me recall when they said, does it feel real? And various times along the way, they have given me certain feelings that have been so overwhelming that I've never felt them ever on this 3D plane. I've never felt them, and they've given me them for a tiny burst. They let me feel the compassion of God. That's what they called it. That was the compassion of God. And I feel it now as I'm talking about it. And I burst into tears instantly. I felt it and just burst into tears, but it was only for like a split second. That was the best, that the most they would allow me. They made me feel that again once when I was doing some healing with somebody, and I burst into tears again. It's happened to me 2 or 3 times where I'm given this feeling, and it's like they said, we just want you to know what it feels like, and also for a bit of proof that this isn't just you. Okay, but that hasn't happened for a while, and now I just do my stuff and everything. So, that was the reason why I was thinking, am I just making this up? But then they went on and they said, what we tell you, we are real, and the message that we bring you is real. But they said, not everything that we tell you is real. Not all of the details that we give you are absolute concrete details. And they said the reason for that is that your language and your understanding doesn't have the subtleties that allow us to tell you really what we mean. Some of the things that you ask, we're not allowed to tell you. And some of the things that we tell you, we don't go into details. And some of the things that we tell you are metaphors. They're not the actual, just the metaphor, because it's much easier to be able to communicate something to you with a metaphor than the reality. And then they said this, and sometimes we humour you. We just humour you because of your questions, and we just give you something that makes you happy. Reminds me of the story of the student that goes up to Buddha, and he says to Buddha, tell me about what the essence of God is. And Buddha says, God is the essence of love that you carry within you. And the student went away very, very happy and meditated on that for months. Like, oh yeah, God is the essence of love that I have within me. And then one day after he'd meditated and he felt so much better, he went back to Buddha and he was going to tell him, thank you for telling me that secret about God. And he said, I learned so much when you said that God was the essence of love that we carry within us. And Buddha said, I told you that so that the child would stop crying. But now that the child stopped crying, let me tell you, there is no God and there is no love. And I think that's what the emissaries were saying to me, that we'll tell you things, it'll put you in a better place. You'll feel a bit better, but don't take them too seriously. But then they said this, but the one thing that you can count on is our message about the Great Awakening. They said that is our fundamental message, and that is always what we talked about, and that you can take to the bank. And that was what they came through at the very beginning. That's what they said to me. A message of great hope about the Great Awakening. They've never stopped talking about it. They've never really wanted to sidetrack into other things. I asked them just to keep it a bit fresh and, instead of every single week talking about the Great Awakening. But that's their job. That's the job that they've been given. And they have stuck to that. And I know that it's true because I was talking about the Great Awakening during the pandemic when there was no signs of it at all. And then, bit by bit, now you just can't not see it. It's everywhere. It is enormous. And as they said in an earlier video, it's like a tidal wave now. They didn't lie about that. They didn't make it up. That is the truth. All the rest, well, hey, if it just keeps us going. What they said is this. We are not here to tell you the truth. That's what they said. We are here to guide you toward the truth. And we've talked about this, that you can't find the truth, but you can head toward it. And that's what they said. They said, we are like guiding lights that will guide you to shore. That's our job. They said, don't try and, don't tie us down to words because, as they said, it reminded me of the Shakespeare expression, there's many a slip twixt cup and lip. The words themselves can be misinterpreted, they can be misunderstood, but the message about the Great Awakening is fixed and it will never change. This is where we are, and it's only going to get bigger and better. And in the meantime, I will continue to ask them questions so that they might humour me with the answers. But I always think the answers are lovely. Doesn't matter whether, they're exactly correct. I always think they're lovely. They always come through with something really nice. So there you are. That's it. I don't think I'm making it up. I truly think that they did come to me, and I truly think that they give me messages. And I truly believe that the Great Awakening is well and truly upon us. And there's no stopping it. Tell me in the comments what you've seen, the change that you've seen over, let's say, over the last 6 years, 5 years of the Great Awakening. What do you see now that you didn't see 6 years ago? There's a lot that I see, but I'd like to know what you see as well. That gives you proof that the Great Awakening is happening. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.